M0A Nation, Jason here. Will be starting in a little less than 3 minutes. I see everybody giving some airport shout outs over there on YouTube, on Facebook. Glenn, Jenna, great to see you. Telvin, great to see you as well. Jeremy, fantastic to see you all. We'll be back with you guys in about 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Ask Jason anything. I have a feeling this could be dangerous. We will find out together. See you guys back in 2 minutes. I see Jim Porterfield is on the live stream on Facebook. I have just confirmed Ask Me Anything applies to everyone except Jim Porterfield. Jim, I just want you to know that. Much love, though, from myself and the M0A.com family. Over on YouTube, hey to Mike, Brian Toma, great to see you. Caden, great to see you. Jordan, Nathaniel, username Jaws1975 from Rhode Island. Good to see you. Andrew, good to see you. Blake, fantastic to see you. Save your question, Blake. Copy and paste it to me in just a second, and then we'll take that question here. On Facebook, Carolyn, good to see you, one of our phenomenal M0A.com members. Jeremy, good to see you over on YouTube as well. Fantastic. Anyways, a minute and we will get started. Lambo, Casey Watts, good to see you. We'll be back with you in just 1 minute. All right, M0A Nation, Remote Pilot 101, let's get started here. Welcome to the live stream tonight. I hope you've been really enjoying the series we've been doing. I believe we're going to continue it as well. We're working on maybe some topics you want to hear and learn more about. Let me know, because we'll be sharing more perhaps next week with some great live streams as well. Tonight is Ask Me Anything. We'll get to those questions in a second. Save them for a bit. As I did say earlier, everyone except Jim Porterfield, who's on the M0A Facebook right now, is allowed to play, only because he threw some good questions in there last time that tripped me up. So if he does ask a question, Jim, I'm just going to pretend to ignore it and act like I didn't see it. Anyways, excited, thankful, blessed to be with you all this evening. We are coming to you live from the spare bedroom. We moved the entire studio set on over here to the spare bedroom. It's a mess if you could see everything. We've been doing our member-only webinars, everything else just right here. And I hope you don't mind that it's coming to you from a spare bedroom. We're here to talk about airplanes. We're here to talk about something other than COVID-19. How about that? Put something positive in your social media feeds. That is what we are all about. Tonight is your opportunity to ask me anything. It can be aviation related. It cannot be aviation related. Whatever you wish and desire to talk about, I am here to serve you all. Quick housekeeping before we get there. Please make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube, like us here on Facebook if you're watching it there. Also on the far right-hand side, that is our Instagram name tag. You can scan that now. I'll leave that up for a second so you get your phones out and scan that. to follow us for some great behind the scenes on the Instagram story as well. We try to keep very different types of content, so you kind of follow us everywhere. Facebook gets its own content, Instagram gets its own content, etc. And we are working on an M0A TikTok. This is the first time in my life I felt old that I did not know what a TikTok was, and that's when I knew. I'd wake up the next morning and I spotted 3 gray hairs, and that's the moment I knew I was getting old, when I didn't know what TikTok was. I still don't totally know what TikTok is, but anyways, thankful to be with you all. Let's dive into it. This is your time here. I'll give shout outs as we need to. Feel free to ask your questions if I miss your question, because I'm looking at 3 feeds. I can see YouTube, I can see the M0A Facebook, and I can also see the Remote Pilot 101 Facebook as well. So I have to look at all 3 of those feeds. If I miss questions, don't be insulted. Just wait 2 or 3 minutes and copy and paste it again if I miss your question. All right? I'll do my best to take everybody's question so we can fill again with some positivity in those Facebook and YouTube and Instagram feeds. Let's dive into it. Starting over on YouTube, oh, my good friend David G., one of our phenomenal ground school members, been a member for a very, very long time. Dream airplane. This is a good question because is this a practical dream or is this a really dreaming dream? A very practical dreaming airplane is something like a PC-12. I think a PC-12 by Pilatus checks so many boxes. I can still get some phenomenal short strip performance of where I want to fly in and out. I can still take, 8 or 10 of my closest friends for half tanks. A Pilatus, a PC-12 is just a performer with that. I mean, if we're really, really dreaming, we're getting into the big, Falcons and Gulfstreams from there. But as far as me flying it, I would love to fly a PC-12. My good friend Clay Benfield. Clay, I hope everything is well with Gavin. We have a little Gavin as well, whose birthday is actually in a few days, in a week. So looking forward to that. Congratulations to you guys. Clay says, which is better, flying only once occasionally or letting more time lapse in more proficient pockets? I totally get with this, Clay. It depends on where you're at. Now, I kind of know where you're coming from. Let me give you 2 scenarios. If you are in flight training, Clay, I want you flying at least twice a week. That is really my goal. Twice a week, because everyone who's been in flight training knows how this works. In a perfect world, we book twice a week. We work Monday and Wednesday. Great. However, we know Monday we fly, everything's great. Wednesday we go to crank the airplane up and the battery's dead or the starter doesn't work or there's some sort of issue. Now we're not flying. Now it's a whole nother week till Monday we come around and fly. If you're only flying once a week, just that Wednesday, and you show up and it's been a week since you've flown and there's a maintenance issue and a whole nother week goes by and now there's a weather issue and 2 whole weeks have gone by and you're going to spend your next Wednesday lesson when you can do it just trying to figure out what you learned 2 weeks ago and get the rust off of that. So in the training environment, I want you flying at least twice a week if you can. There is a ton of data, and I'm working on a new book right now. I've shared with a bunch of you. I'm working on a new book right now. One of my passions is how we actually learn, the science of learning, retention, and application. I think that relates to us so perfectly. I hate when people go into the written test and just want to memorize everything. And nothing could do you a worse service than just trying to rote memorization. There's a lot of data, Clay, that suggests that time lapsed between lessons or between study sessions actually is to allow some forgetting to happen is beneficial for the long-term memory and muscle memory, which we're really after with that. So I like a little space in between. As far as now you're saying, hey, Jason, we have a family now. I can only fly what I can fly, time and money, 2 killers of flying dreams, right? You either have one or you have the other, sometimes we find. I'd love to see you flying twice a month. Would be something great to keep your skill set sharp. And not just flying to fly, like let's go to the practice area and goof around. Let's go somewhere. Let's actually do something. Let's kind of go above and beyond with that. That's my opinion of that. All right. Cubicle to Clouds, cool username on YouTube. How many days a year can you fly in Florida? The better question is how many mornings per year can you fly in Florida? Most of them. In the wintertime, we get the morning fog, but then we can fly in the afternoons. In the summertime, it's beautiful in the mornings and it rains, just like it did today in the afternoons. So you probably get about 300 to 280 to 300 flying days in Florida. It's pretty decent. Clay, I love the idea. Cross country to Ocala is in order, my friend. Steve Carr, why are you in the right seats in your video? Steve Carr, why are you in the left seat in your videos? No, I'm teasing. I feel so weird sitting in the left seat. The order I did my certificates, I was just talking about this in our member-only Facebook group. I went private, instrument, commercial, and I had an opportunity to teach. I had students, I was working on my commercial, and students were saying, or potential students were saying, Jason, I need you to get your CFI. I'll be one of your first students. Let's do it. Where most people go private, instrument, commercial, multi, and then CFI, I went commercial, CFI, CFII, so right seat, commercial multi, back to left seat. Boy, was that difficult. MEI, back to right seat. I wanted to get instructed in making money. It was the best way to make money at the time. I was tired of paying out for flying. I wanted to make some money for once. So Steve, to answer your question, it's just where I feel the most comfortable. I will solo that airplane. Well, you see it all the time on YouTube from the right seat. It's just that muscle memory. My hands just know where to go, what to do. I can certainly fly in the left seat. I have to stop and think. It'd be just like Steve if I threw you in the right seat. If you're not, I don't know if I can't remember if you're a flight instructor or not, Steve. If I flew you in the right seat, you'd be like, I know how to fly, but this is just different. All right. Looking at some more. All right. Find some more. Alex, good to see you. Nathan, I'm a new CFI. Great timing. I know. Hey, don't you sweat it, my friend. This is all going to come back. Don't you worry. But what is your best but most obscure tip for being a great instructor? Best but most obscure. You'll realize there's a lot of things they don't teach you in FOI. FOI is Fundamentals of Instruction. A best but obscure tip is you cannot teach the same maneuver to every single person. Student pilots, listen to this. Don't tune out just because you say, I'm not a CFI, I don't want to be. Listen to this because this can help you be a better student for your instructors as well. Let's say I have an entrepreneur, a very type A, extroverted entrepreneur. And then I have a software engineer that is much more introverted and wants to think things through. I have the big picture thinker and I have the detail-oriented person. How would I teach each of those individual steep turns? Well, the ACS says these are the standards. I just have to get them to go to those standards. Yet a good CFI looks at the situation, looks at the student and says, okay, when I'm teaching this extroverted, big picture thinking, this entrepreneur, whatever, I'm trying to build that personality, right? When I teach them steep turns, they're the kind of person that I just need to show it to them once and then let them do it. Explain to them why we do this, when we would use this maneuver, and then let them go, right? Let them fail, let them make mistakes, and correct them as they're working on it. Whereas perhaps maybe the more engineer-minded, the person who wants all the details maybe, we're going to sit down and make sure we have that ground lesson. Hey, we're doing this. We're doing steep turns. Here's what a steep turn is actually going to look like. This is what that bank angle is going to look like on the attitude indicator. This is why we practice them. But here's what's happening to the horizontal and the vertical components of lift. Here's what's happening when you're in a steep turn and you pull back on the yoke. You're actually going to descend more than anything. Excuse me. So if we're descending, we need to lessen the bank. And we're going to explain and get into all the little nitty-gritty details. A steep turn is a steep turn. But it's all in how you teach it and how you present it to each person. So you need to be able to tailor your training as a flight instructor to your students' specific needs. And too often, I love flight instruction, but we all know maybe someone out there who's just a time builder, and not anyone can become a flight instructor. Not everyone's meant to be a flight instructor. Unfortunately, for many people, being a flight instructor is a stepping stone onto something greater because they get paid and they get hours. It's unfortunate. But that is what it is. I wish flight instructors had to have so much experience, and then when you leave the airline career, you come back to be an instructor. Think about it this way. Aviation is one of, I've shared this before, and I'm sorry I'm getting on a rant. Aviation is one of those rare things where you're a teacher before you've mastered it. Are you going to be a white belt and go open up a Taekwondo dojo and be the sensei and be the teacher? No, you're a third or fourth degree black belt. You've been in this for many years before you even think about going to do such. Aviation is one of those rare times where we take our lowest time guys and gals and say, it's your turn to teach now. And it's just how it works, unfortunately. And I'm preaching to the choir, maybe, but I just find it odd. I think we have it backwards in a way. I wish it was the retired military, the retired airline pilots that then come down to the ranks to be flight instructors. And that, you know what, that's not a knock on everybody. I know some phenomenal, very young flight instructors. Not everyone's meant to teach. I guess that is my point. And I'm sorry for rambling so much. Clint Goff, good to see you again, my friend. Thank you for making every live stream. Asked, any plans on becoming a DPE in the future? So, Clint, I actually went to DPE school in Oklahoma City, probably 2, 3, 4 years ago now. Was going through the entire process to become a DPE. And then at the very end of the process, I learned that they wanted me into the Orlando, Florida FSDO. Again, it's very, very busy. Doing basically 3, 4 check rides every single week. You can max out at 3 a day, and they wanted that as basically a minimum. And I'm thinking, you know, you guys don't realize it. At m0a.com, we're up to 25 employees now. We have a payroll that needs to be met, members that need to be educated, making safer, smarter pilots. This is a full-time gig for so many of us. I couldn't see taking that away to become a DPE and take so much time away. If I can be honest with you, I was looking for the DPE more so as like a nice feather in the cap as well to help further what we do. But I realized, you know, I don't need to be a DPE to help you succeed in aviation and pass your check rides with those who have the time to be phenomenal DPEs. My 2 cents with that. Let's see. All right. Oh, sorry. Roy asks, what is a DPE? DPE is a designated pilot examiner. That's someone who's allowed to administer check rides and administer certificates and ratings based on the FAA. It's interesting. I always find it so funny. You're an independent contractor of the FAA, a government entity, but just about every DPE I know, cash-only business. And I think, that's so interesting. An independent contractor of the government that's cash-only. I see what's happening here. It's not a knock on DPEs. It's smart, perhaps. The CPA is watching or cringing right now, I am sure. So, Caden asks, when do I expect 512 Romeo, 512 Mike Zulu? Caden, you have been paying attention, my friend, to come back. So, airplane update. 23 Mike Zulu is in the paint shop right now. 245 Tango Alpha is getting some transponder issues fixed. 512 Romeo, which will be changing to 512 Mike Zulu, we are probably 6 weeks out from getting that to the paint shop, and that's another 6 weeks of paint, so 12 weeks roughly. It's going to get painted similar to Mike Zulu, a similar wrap, but a slightly different design. Also changing the tail number on the 150 to 512 Mike Zulu. Keep branding everybody Mike Zulu, but I love the 512. 512 Romeo was my first airplane. So I want to keep a little bit of history, thus the 512, but add Mike Zulu to the end of it to bring it up to date with that. All right. Zamir, phenomenal to see you. Another one of our outstanding online ground school members. He's over on Facebook, said, hey, Jason, glad to be with you today, or back with you today. He was on our webinar earlier. Was wondering if you have a setup, a video, or a webinar on how you use your home flight simulator like X-Plane. You know, I do not, but we have a killer, as you've seen before, Zamir. You've seen the live streams from it. X-Plane setup. I would be more than happy to share such a thing with you, Zamir. I think that is a super cool idea. All right. Kiwi Pilot asked if I ever been up to Canada. Never flown in Canada. Done the touristy Niagara Falls thing once. That's about my extent in Canada. Would love to fly in Canada. In the summer, though. I'm not a big snow kind of guy. It's not really, that's why we live in Florida. Wesley says, radio communication practice outside of flying, liveatc.net, Pilot Edge using X-Plane, VATSIM, if you want to take that simulation a step further as well, in addition to that. How I typically recommend using liveatc.net is if your local Class D, Class Charlie airspace, Class Bravo even, has liveatc, listen to it. Pick out an airplane on the frequency, pretend you're that airplane, or pick out 2 or 3 so you can at least get some back-to-back. Listen for that airplane, practice listening for that tail number, practice reading back how they should read back, and hopefully do read back. liveatc.net. They have a phenomenal app that's a few bucks, and the web, the browser version is certainly free. Favorite airplane to fly? 23 Mike Zulu, without a doubt, as crazy as that sounds. I love the Piper Cub. I have a healthy fear of the Piper Cub, though, at the same time. When I explain this, people don't often understand it until you fly it. The J3 Cub was built in 1940. It's still flying. It's fabric and wood. That's not the scary part. It is 660 pounds, I think, is the weight. A 660-pound airplane. It is, as you can imagine, any little bit of wind, you feel it. It's like over 3 knots, you feel it. That airplane will humble you. Any tailwheel will humble you. Tailwheel pilots unite and tell me I'm not talking crazy here. Any tailwheel aircraft will humble you quickly. Just look at soon-to-be one-day aviation legend Mike Patey with what happened to Draco. Tailwheel airplanes with wind, especially, but even without wind, will humble you, is my point with that. All right. Reading some more questions here. Okay. Best first airplane for ownership in your opinion? That comes from Dylan. Dylan, I always suggest you buy an airplane, and I struggle following my own advice sometimes, and this goes through most things in life, cars, all sorts of stuff. You buy an airplane for 80% of your missions. If 80% of your missions are the $100 hamburger flights, they're the flights up to see the grandkids, they're your son or daughter's in college 300 miles away, if it's those little flights, that's your 80%. Define your 80% and buy an airplane that meets that 80%. But you say, but Jason, once a year I want to go to Oshkosh, and that's a 700-mile flight, and then the wife and I want to go down to the Bahamas, and that's 1,200 miles from where we are. Okay, that's the 20%. You're either going to make a few extra fuel stops and still enjoy aviation on the way, or you're going to buy too much airplane and spend too much money. Buy an airplane for 80% of your mission, is my point. Jim Porterfield did ask a serious question. I give you credit for that, Jim, unless you're just trying to get a plant in there before you bust out the zinger. Am I still flying John Glenn's Baron? I haven't in a very long time. Joel, who's one of my longtime aviation mentors, I'm surprised I haven't seen him on here just yet. I'm sure he is. He is still flying it quite regularly, though, as well. He was on our All Things Aviation live stream, sharing some stories about that when he had the iPad mounted up on the windshield. It fell, hit the yoke, disconnected the autopilot. He went down to get it, bumped the yoke, and put the aircraft in a nosedive at flight level 200, I believe. So that was exciting, to say the least. All right. Jeff Gerard, good to see you, man. Jesus asks, at what density altitude kind of ballpark should I start leaning the mixture? When the engine asks for it. Every engine is going to ask for it at a different altitude. You need to do, there's a video I did a while ago about flying. I don't know what's making noise over here, sorry. I did a video not too terribly long ago about flying in and out of Sedona. So you could see that, and I show actually leaning the mixture on takeoff to show how we need to properly lean the mixture. So we can see all of that. All right. Michael says, do both watches show the same time? Of course, one has to be local, one has to be Zulu, Michael. So we got that. Dan from Michigan, good to see you. Let me see. Looking for some more questions here. James Dunn said, build one, build an airplane. Best first airplane for ownership in your opinion. Is that what was making the noise? I don't know, maybe I don't know what was, something was talking to me. Let's see, already got that one. Oh, best tip for CFI candidates. Wow. Make your own lesson plans. Make your own lesson plans. Please, I saw friend after friend, fellow student pilot after student pilot, when I was at a 141 school working on my CFI, share lesson plans, and they would fail check rides. Because either A, they didn't know the work in the lesson plans because they didn't put in the work, or B, the DPE started to realize, hey, I've seen these lesson plans once or twice before, and that was a big red flag. It's crazy, it is difficult. Make your own lesson plans. That is my thoughts with that here. Let's see here. Hey, Jared, I still do. Thank you for asking. How would you plan an island hopping trip in the Bahamas for a lower time pilot? What tips do you have? What problems or challenges should someone expect? First off, Jared, paperwork has to be perfect. And you have to have plenty of cash with you. I have found sometimes that the landing fees tend to change from time to time, depending which customs agent you get in the Bahamas. That's just my, perhaps it's changed. I haven't been there in a while, but that is that. Let's see. As far as other tips, challenges, please make sure you have your survival gear, your life jackets. Don't put the raft in the baggage compartment because you'll never get to it when you need it. All those things, my friend. Good to chat with you. Over on YouTube now, Dustin Ruth, great question. How do you handle people's criticism? And you would be amazed how quickly, you see it all the time. It's easy to get behind a keyboard and for people to type anything. I now surround myself around a phenomenal team here at M0A.com. When it was just a one-man band, it was very, very difficult because I am of the mindset of I could read 1,000 amazing comments. M0A is the best. You helped me pass my check ride. Thank you so much. And one person says, Jason, I think you're an idiot. And which one do you think I focused on, right? We have a really good system down now where just about everything gets pre-scanned through. And we ask ourselves a question. First and foremost, is there any truth to what this person is saying? And does this deliver any benefit to us? If someone just writes in a support ticket and says, Jason, you're an idiot, they're not going to get a response. It just gets deleted. If they say something kind of nasty and then provide some constructive criticism, though, we always say, is there a hint of truth to this? Because if there is, we can learn from it. A good pilot's always learning, a good business owner is always learning, a good father, husband, etc. is always learning as well. So we try to, if there is something to learn from, absolutely we take that. And now I have a great team that helps filter a lot of that so I can stay in the right mindset to always be up, always be chipper for you guys. I do have bad days though on occasion. Once or twice a year, have a rough day. Let's look at some more. By the way, this is, and that's a fair question. This is anything. I mean, other than aviation, passions of mine are the science of learning, business, all sorts of stuff. More than happy to talk about anything you all wish to talk about. Let me see. Raphael asked, I said, good day. How up to date is our Remote Pilot 101 for testing today here? We are actually going through, we're on version 3 right now, Raphael. Again, based on that awesome constructive criticism like we were just talking about, and making that even that much better as well. But we're running on, we just ran the data. So the FAA publishes their national averages for written tests. Every single one of our courses scored our members, our users, scored 6 points higher on average, we polled everybody, than the national averages. So the national average is an 80, our members scored an 86, which might sound like a big deal, but how do you want to show up to your check ride? With an 80 or with an 86? So I was really, really proud of that. Let's see, Mike Alpha Sierra, how do you reference yourself with the ground when doing the flare? We'll talk about that word here in a second. What are my visual references? So first off, I have a series out there called The Secret to Perfect Landing. It's a webinar. It would probably be the best one to watch. One of the tips in there is to ditch the word flare from your vocabulary. A 737 coming into landing, flares. The space shuttle, when it came into land, it flared. A 172 doesn't flare. Why do we practice slow flight? We practice slow flight to get better at landings, because right before we touch down, we're in a phase of slow flight. How high up is the nose in slow flight? 5 degrees max, maybe. Instead, I want you to transition. Transition to slow flight down the runway. So I want you to transition to. It's a lot of peripheral vision. So peripheral vision to make sure I'm maintaining center line, but you take your eyes down the runway. As you bring the nose up and make that transition, you transition your eyes down the runway. When I say eyes down the runway, I don't mean 100, 200 feet. I mean look towards the tree line, if there's a tree line. Look towards the end of the runway. If you ever find the ground sneaking up on you, anybody ever been flying and just had the ground kind of just, oh, I didn't expect the ground to be right there. That's because you're not looking far enough down the runway. Take your eyes down the runway is my best advice with that. Is it Rudica? Tips for someone returning to aviation after a decade. I hope you're able to watch our live stream of the Flying Again movie. I wasn't able to keep that live stream up, but I hope you were able to check out that live stream. Listen, AOPA recommends 1 hour for every year you've been out of flight training. So budget 10 hours from a time and from a financial standpoint as well. Find a great CFI that's willing to go slow and work you through it, because what's changed in 10 years? Well, glass panel was just becoming a thing 10 years ago. Garmin 430s were all the rage. Like now a Garmin 430 is like antiquated equipment. That's like base. If you go on VREF, it doesn't even add value to the airplane anymore. It's like just considered base equipment. Technology has changed. iPad technology did not exist like it does 10 years ago. So that is where you need to focus on that. Freedom Falcon, so where can I find the Pastor Commercial Pilot Checkered audiobook? I do not have it done yet. I'm a few chapters away from being complete. When it is done, it will be on Audible like the others, my friend. PKIMS, is that what it is? Oh, PKIMS 111, Opinion on College for Aviation. If you wish to fly for a major airline, you will need at least a bachelor's degree. If you want a career in aviation, a bachelor's degree is going to be a very, very smart thing. All right. Coach Ray, you know all my pet peeves. Certificate, transition, you know all my pet peeves, man. I see that on Facebook there. David Andre, as a CFI, what did I struggle with the most? Early on, I made poor decisions as a CFI. You don't understand, the PAVE acronym, right? How am I the pilot? How am I the aircraft? How am I in the environment? How is the environment? And then the E in PAVE is external pressures. And I tell you, you don't understand external pressures until it's the end of the month, the rent is due, you're 18, 19 years old, living on your own, you only make money when the propeller is spinning and the weather is bad, or your student canceled, or whatever it is. Like the external pressures to go fly and make poor decisions. I made a lot of poor decisions early on as a CFI. I worked with some very difficult students early on. I wasn't willing to put my foot down, let them dictate the flight lessons, perhaps a little more than I should have dictated the flight lessons. Just had some issues early on. I wish I was a little more bold, and my yes meant yes and my no meant no early on in my flight training. Cool. All right, let's find some more. Gilbert Hernandez, how many hours do I have? Gilbert, let me tell you to the decimal point, my friend. And it's going to be shy a little bit because I haven't updated my logbook in a few weeks. Not that I've been flying all that much. The old COVID-19 has kept everybody just about on the ground. Logbook, 10,107.5 hours. In the last 7 days, 0, though. That's the number I need to work on a little bit. Tried to fly today to go see the 172 at the paint shop, and we just had this nasty little front going through. There's my mentor, Mr. Joel, over on the M0A Facebook. All right. Is the higher cost of a new airplane worth it? If it comes with a warranty, it very well could be. But my friend, the used aircraft market is really, really hot right now. You may get some deals with the coronavirus, but when Basic Med came out, it really changed the game. It unfortunately is killing the sport pilot market and really stepped up 150, 172 values. You may find, like, if you're okay with a trainer, a trainer aircraft that's certainly well used, but a flight school looking to lessen its expenses during this current coronavirus time, and pick up maybe a sweetheart deal. No promises on that, but that's possible with that. Am I ever scared letting someone land the airplane? How do you know when to intervene? I've always been a big fan of letting students make mistakes. I'm not talking like blow tires or landing that hard. I've always been a fan of letting students make mistakes. I've always approached being a flight instructor in the cockpit as more like being a lifeguard in a way. Like, I need to let you swim, but I'm here for you. I'll show you the maneuver, I'll show you how to swim, but I need to get out of the pool, I need to watch you swim, and I'll jump in and save you if I need to. Obviously, you can't be the lifeguard in the air if you haven't helped your students put the groundwork in, because you'll just be on the controls the whole time saving them. You'll be helping them too much. You have to either get them in a great ground school or do the groundwork with them and hold their hand through that process. Otherwise, you'll end up being too helpful on the controls. I shared the story in the Private Pilot Blueprint, if you've read it, of a student of mine. It was Harvey English is his name, and Harvey sometimes even watches these. And Harvey came to me from another CFI who was always on the controls. His biggest complaint was, Jason, I came from a CFI, I have a ton of hours, I've never soloed because he's always on the controls. He's always helped me, never lets me fly the airplane. I said, okay, Harvey. I think we did 2 or 3 lessons. Harvey was a great pilot. And he was always paranoid. Jason, stop touching the controls. Harvey, I'm not touching the controls. Jason, I know you helped me on that landing. Harvey, I didn't touch anything on that landing. And finally, on one of his laps around the pattern, I grabbed his logbook, and while he's not paying attention, I'm doing all the endorsements for his solo and sign and everything that he needs to have signed. And I got him all signed off, and he has a great landing and says, we're at a pilot-controlled airport, uncontrolled airport. He says, Jason, I felt you on the pedals. I know you're doing that. I said, Harvey, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm not doing anything. And I opened the door, and in the middle of the runway, it was uncontrolled airport, I grabbed the handheld radio, and I got out of the airplane. And his eyes were this big, and he's like, And I shut the door, and I waved, and I went over to the side of the runway. And I watched him do his 3 takeoffs and landings, and they were awesome. And after that moment, Harvey believed me. I wasn't touching anything on the flight controls. So long story to that. Joel, who is my aviation mentor. Didn't we talk earlier about how I handle criticism? On Facebook, Joel said, my main concern as a student is when my instructor is wearing a pink shirt and wearing 2 watches. I didn't pick this out. It was not my wardrobe choice today, okay? I'll let someone else do that, Joel. So anyways, by the way, there is a Controller Bob and Joel show, and Captain Joel, we got to call him, show coming up. So you've asked that, and it's happening. All right. Am I hiring CFIs? Rocky, we were until the coronavirus hit. I just want to be smart. We are obviously doing these live streams. We are working on a ton of content. We're working on the commercial audiobook. We're using this downtime to really ramp up. You're going to be very pleased when we come out of all of this. But right now, I have a fiduciary responsibility to 25 outstanding M0A.com team members, many of them flight instructors. And until we get through this coronavirus, I don't want to add any more payroll to that. That being said, when all this is done, come a few weeks, I hope, I'm the optimist though, right? We can certainly have that discussion again here. All right. Is it better to buy an airplane in or just, is it better to buy an airplane to train in or should I just rent? Again, Jeremy, it just, it depends on you and how much time you're going to spend. Here's what I would like to see if you're thinking about aircraft ownership. And by the way, there's a thing called flying clubs and some other outstanding things you can do instead of actually owning that airplane. But here's what I'd like to do, Jeremy. I'd like you to earn your private pilot certificate renting an airplane. Beat up somebody else's airplane. Private pilot students, how did you treat your airplane during private pilot? You beat the snot out of that thing. If you owned it, you would not feel very good about yourself. You would cry every time you had a hard landing. Beat up somebody else's airplane for private pilot. Fly some different airplanes after you become a private pilot or during it. Fly a Cherokee 140, an Archer, a Diamond, a Cirrus, whatever it may be. Fly all those different products. Figure out what you like and what meets your 80% mission. Buy an airplane for your instrument. I love the idea of either joining a club or buying an airplane for your instrument, because this is the airplane you're going to do your actual instrument flying in. It sounds so silly, but even something as simple as a tail number change can throw you off. Anybody at a big flight school they can all be 172s, but a different tail number, you feel like, oh, that's right, that was my tail number yesterday. Today, this is my tail number. It sounds so silly, but it throws you off your game just for a half a second, maybe one whole second sometimes. A tail number change. You miss a radio call because of it. Was that for me? It's so nice to do your instrument in the exact same airplane, the exact same tail number, the exact same avionics suite. You know exactly, hey, on the seat rails, I should be able to see 3 holes straight down. That's exactly where my seat goes. My headset plugs in here, the cable runs this way. Like, there's something nice. I love my favorite things about aircraft ownership. My headset stays in the airplane. My checklist, I know exactly where it is. I know exactly where my pens are. I know where everything is because I leave it in the airplane that way. And the team, if they fly it, they know they have their way, they like stuff. I like stuff. It's nice aircraft ownership with that. All right. Well, let me see. Lego Stassi asked the $1 million question. I knew I'd be asked this question, and I prepared something for this one. It is, why do I wear 2 watches? Has anybody seen a gentleman named Ken Heron? There is a gentleman, he may even be watching this, named Ken Heron. Ken is huge in the drone space, and we work a lot with Ken. He made a really funny video. All his videos are very funny. I actually have a clip of Ken's I can play here in a bit. He made a song about us. If you want to hear it, I can play it. Anyways, he made this review of Remote Pilot 101, our drone Part 107 test prep course. And he was going on and on about the many features of Remote Pilot 101. One of them was Jason's crystal blue eyes. I can't make this stuff up. It's on YouTube. We did it as one of our first Fun Friday videos. And the second selling feature he said was, and Jason wears 2 watches. The truth of how this story actually happened. So Ken made that video went viral, and I forever became pigeonholed as the guy who wears 2 watches. During the videos that Ken was watching, I was wearing a dress watch and an Apple Watch. I was wearing the Apple Watch because I'm big into running and that sort of stuff. And I was training, I don't know, for a marathon or something like that at the time. And I was using the Apple Watch really as a fitness tracker. However, on camera, it looked as though I was wearing 2 watches. So that I forever became pigeonholed as the guy with 2 watches. If you caught me on the street, I wouldn't have 2 watches on. Just at work do I wear 2 watches. Would anybody like to hear, or you probably need to see Ken Heron. I have the Ken Heron. Ken Heron made a song. He was on our All Things Aviation live stream. Maybe you've seen it. I can play it if you would like. I think I have it over here, DDR1. This is the Ken Heron song, just so you get an idea of this gentleman and how crazy he is. Ken, if you're watching, we love you. This is the Ken Heron song that he made and performed live to you all on the All Things Aviation live stream. I'll make sure this is available for ringtones. Bob Cam, this can be your new ringtone when I call you. Let me make sure it's going to play here. First introduced to you, Ken. There we go.
Yeah. Now speaking of your deep blue eyes,
yeah,
that are like the summer sky, I put together a little song for you. Would you like me to sing it for you?
I can only imagine. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Let me get a little bit of reverb. I am a professional after all. Can you hear that reverb?
It sounds great.
It's a very short song. Are you a Willie Nelson fan?
I haven't listened to the old Willie in a while, so I can only imagine.
Okay, well, this is inspired by a Willie Nelson song. And it's about you, so you should like it. In the cockpit glow, I see them. Blue eyes flying in his plane. As he gets the tower clearance, down the runway he goes again. Jason is a flying master, wearing 2 watches is his way. Through the ages I'll remember blue eyes at M0A. Applause.
I can't even make this sort of stuff up anymore. That's Ken Heron, by the way, if you're wondering. He is the reason why I wear 2 watches. Bob Cam, Joel, I'll make sure that's all downloadable as a ringtone for you guys for next time I call you. But that might bring up even more questions. I don't know where you transition from that. But that is none other than Ken Heron, a super guy. We're gonna actually be doing some more stuff together. He is a funny guy. Adam said the reverb's a classy touch. It was a really classy touch. He had me laughing hysterically. I don't even know what to say. So more live streams to come with Ken Heron. That is for sure. To watch Blue Eyed Jason. Yeah, I don't know if that's how I want to be pigeonholed with that one. Eric said, yeah, Ken's a tough act to follow. He certainly is. But seriously, you can subscribe to Ken's channel too. I do his Thursday night lives quite often. He is a funny guy. All right, back to questions. Let me look and see. Martin, that was a really great day. Simon asks, thank you for all your help. Wondering what's the point of the avionics cooling fan? Gosh, if you ever felt the avionics, they are like on fire. Most of the time getting baked by the sun. That is why, just like your computer has a fan. It's the same way we have the avionics cooling fan with that. So that's that. All right. Justin Carroll, great question. Asked if there's a pinch hitter course I recommend, or how do you recommend my husband teaching on emergency type situations as not overwhelm and scare? Okay, let me share something super cool. Again, I'm not here to do a sales pitch or anything like that. I'm here to deliver value. But you all know we're doing something called Aviation Mastery at Sea. I know it's a crazy, I have a thing on it here actually. I know it is a crazy, that's Ken Heron. No one wants to see Ken Heron again. Sorry, Ken Heron. Don't tell Ken I said that. I know it is a crazy difficult time to be marketing a cruise right now, given our coronavirus environment. This is October. This will all be well and gone by then. Anyways, the reason I bring all that up is we are doing a co-pilot course. I'm very specific in the verbiage we're using. So while you are off learning about VFR, IFR, for-flight tactics, in-flight emergencies, flight planning, weather, all these things, your co-pilots will have a co-pilot track. Well, they'll go off with some of our instructors and they'll go to the co-pilot course. This isn't a typical pinch hitter course where someone had a heart attack and we need to take over and save the day. We'll cover that. This is a co-pilot course to show how you can be an asset to one another in the cockpit. Everything from the start. how to help tie down and untie an airplane, how to help pre-flight the airplane, basic radio communications, pulling up basic charts on ForeFlight, approach plates, finding waypoints, pilotage dead reckoning, all these basic things, flip-flopping programming frequencies, direct enter type stuff, basic GPS usage. Also, you can exercise crew resource management and be an asset to one another in the cockpit. Right now, that's only going to be available as a live in-person course on the Aviation Mastery at Sea. Fun vacation, families that fly together stay together, and a bonding opportunity. We're actually sold out of all but one level of pricing. I'll share more on that at the end, aviationmastery.com, if you do wish to learn more on that. But that's that. So super cool. Would love to have you, and that goes for anybody. Spouses, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, sons, daughters, whatever, your non-flying co-pilots. That's who we want to bring with us on such a cruise. All right. Joshua said, do you see a future as a CFI, as a primary income within the near future, say within this year? This will pass, my friend. This coronavirus, everything else. In every adversity, there's a seed of a greater or an equivalent advantage. And it's your job and our job to help you as well find that. Absolutely, please. There's few statements I hate more than this one. I hate, and I don't use the H word very often, but I hate when someone says to make $1 million in aviation, you have to start with 2. Because there are many, Joel is one of them on here, there are many successful aviation entrepreneurs that will tell you you can make a good living in aviation and not feel like you work a day in your life because you absolutely love what you do. Can you do it as a flight instructor? Absolutely you can. Let me tell you how you can do it as a flight instructor. Like I alluded to earlier, many flight instructors are simply just there to get a little paycheck, build time, till Delta or United or somebody calls them and they move on to the next gig. Any flight school would kill to have somebody come to them and say, listen, I don't have any airline aspirations. In fact, I just want to be a flight instructor here for you. I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'd love to be your chief flight instructor one day. I can do it all. I am here to stay if you'll have me. I want to be a career flight instructor. Flight schools would drool over such an offering because it is so hard to find good and keep them flight instructors. That is the secret to how to pull that off and how to do that, my friend. Just a little advice with that. Travis Witt says, is it true in your opinion that learning to fly G1000 is a bad idea? I personally love the glass. I have nothing wrong with that. I love it. My ideal scenario, this is just Jason's weird bias, and there's like a certain romance to it, perhaps, nostalgia maybe. I wish everybody learned to fly, did their private pilot in a J3 Cub. What a cool airplane to do that in. Nothing but you and the airplane. Then your instrument, do it in something with a glass panel. Garmin, Avidyne, do something along those lines. That's my 2 cents. Love the glass panel, though. Let me see here. Ryan, can you do an updated video on proper refueling? Yes. Amanda, our office dad, if you're watching, please add that to the queue. Fantastic idea. That was an old video. Absolutely here. David Stowe on YouTube, I don't know yet. I'm not positive just yet. Waiting to hear back on a few things. But thank you for asking and thinking of us. Looking for some more questions. Thomas said, what are your thoughts about LSA gyroplanes in particular? Never been in a gyroplane. I'm up for flying anything. I would love to give that a try. I think that market, the LSA market in particular, has been severely hurt, the new LSA market, by basic med. You just got to look at it. Light sport was created to be a more affordable option for flight training. This isn't a knock on light sport, by the way. I'm just telling you the facts. Yet, how much is a brand new light sport airplane? it's not an affordable solution. The J3 Cub fits as light sport, so that's awesome. But other than that, new light sport aircraft are expensive to get into for this affordable aviation. So flight schools are buying them, but they're having $100,000, $200,000 of debt, sitting on the balance sheet. And it just doesn't, it makes it very, very difficult to get that done. David Stowe, by the way, said did his IFR in his plane. It is the best, I believe it. How long does it take, Frank wants to get a SOTA from the FAA? It all depends on it, my friend. I've had some buddies that have had colorblind issues before, and it's taken 90 to 120 days. I've had some that have gotten their SOTA but have to resubmit their medical every 6 months now instead for diabetes. So it really depends. It's on a case-by-case basis with that. Marco asked, do you have a video or a checklist on all the steps you should take for weather in your cross-country flight? I don't have such, my friend, but I am more than happy to kind of look into such a thing as well to help you out. Over on the Remote Pilot 101 Facebook, checking those comments out as well. Jim Stafford said, do you think they will extend the renewal period? So here's a good update, okay? PSI testing centers are closed. I don't know if that video posted, I shot a video on it. I don't know if it posted today or if it'll post tomorrow. 658 of them, I believe. PSI owned and operated testing centers are closed for written tests. However, mom and pop flight schools that have PSI training centers, they're basically affiliates, kind of like franchises, are certainly still open for business if the school is still open. So you can still take your test. On the manned aviation side of things, the FAA is talking about a grace period for medicals. However, the insurance companies come out and said, listen, that's great, but we don't follow that. We don't have to follow that same guidance. If you have an accident and you're flying with a lapsed medical, it's going to be a coin toss whether we make your insurance payout. So you need to think about that, remote pilots and unmanned pilots on the insurance side of things as well. They may give you a grace period, but your insurance company doesn't have to recognize that grace period. So you think you need to be mindful of that. Steve, we still do podcasts. I have them right here. The Private Pilot Podcast, the Instrument Pilot Podcast, the Commercial Pilot Podcast, the Flight Instructor Podcast. See, I told you I don't have time to be a DPE. We're making too much content. Every week, at least one new episode will come out, usually private. Next week, Instrument, next week, Commercial, next week, CFI. You can find all those on iTunes, search M0A or search them by those names there, type in Jason Schappert, whatever. Those will come up. Those are the podcasts we produce now. So you can do that. By the way, Coach Ray said it took him 6 months to get a SOTA. Lots of experience with that. All right. Great, great, great. All right. Jason, great name by the way, over on the Remote Pilot 101 Facebook, said, what are my thoughts on the unidentified drones out in like the Midwest, kind of Colorado area several months ago? They had to be like military based or something like that. I know no one ever, did anybody ever end up taking credit for those? I think finally the last article I read said they never existed. It wasn't real. And I thought, oh, that's strange. So everybody was reporting them. I had friends that actually saw them with their own eyes, and they weren't real. I don't know what it was. I would assume it's something top secret military that we probably cannot know about. It was odd, to say the least, with that. Let's take a few more questions here. I apologize. I know I'm missing a bunch of questions, guys. Let's see. Mike, just water with lemon. Don't worry. Mike was asking what's in the tumbler. Just water with lemon, I promise. Any tips for flying in Arizona? Yes, obviously we need to lean on takeoff depending on where we're flying in Arizona. We need some good mountain flying experience, mountain flying courses. There's lots of YouTube videos out there. And then you have to respect density altitude. It is legit. You must respect it. Sergio asked, Jason, what happened with the giveaway from last time from the All Things Aviation? Our winners were already contacted. I believe most of it has already been shipped out as well. So thank you to all our winners. What is the absolute best high performance training airplane? high performance training airplane. Look at what Cirrus is doing with the track airplanes they are producing. The Cirrus track airplanes. They are super, super cool. What do I look for, Carter says, in purchasing an airplane? Carter, I have a webinar from a while ago called How to Buy an Airplane. I'll give you the rundown of the cliff notes of it. Things I don't mind. I don't mind ugly paint. I don't mind ugly interior. Those things are cheap and they don't help the airplane fly much better, right? I do mind high engine time. I do mind a poor avionics suite, because as someone who's just done a ton of avionics work, it is expensive, it is time consuming. Here's the airplane I'd be looking for. Upgraded avionics to fit your mission. At least I want WAAS-enabled GPS approaches for IFR. It's got to be more than a 430, because I have a weird theory. There is going to come a day, it's going to happen in this decade, where there's no longer support for the 430, right? We're basically already there. What I mean is, like, 430s will just kind of become bricks one day, and they're heading that way fast with everything. So don't think a 430 checks all those boxes for you, because there's going to come a day when those break and they're not getting parts anymore. IFR, GPS enabled, and a low time engine. Now let me define a low time engine. I don't mind an engine that was overhauled last year and already has 300 hours on it. In fact, I'd prefer that. I do mind an engine that was overhauled 20 years ago and only has 300 hours on it. That's a big red flag to me, all right? Time since overhaul is important to me as well. Like year, like when was it done, is important. Airplanes are like a boat. They're not meant to sit. Good friend of mine bought a 182, same scenario, 300 hours on the engine, but it had sat, I think, like 12 or 13 years. They were 300 hours over 12 or 13 years. Ended up having to do a complete teardown and overhaul within 40 hours of owning the airplane because of that. I like ugly airplanes. Give me ugly paint, ugly interior all day. That's the cheapest and easiest thing to do to an airplane. Avionics and engine, man, engine's not hard, because it could literally bolt on, bolt off, but boy, is it expensive. So that's my opinion with that. Let's see. Joel says his high performance plane is a Bonanza. Says the sports car of airplanes. Davis Ebert, great to see you. What's my Oshkosh backup plan with regards to the sessions, talks, lectures, etc. That you would have done there? Virtual one? Yeah, we'd probably do a virtual Oshkosh. We kind of did that all things aviation, virtual sun and fun in a way. I really hope Oshkosh happens, but we'll need to make a sooner go or no-go decision on that, because that's it's an event to travel to. Sun and Fun was easy for us to say, hey, we can go at the last minute, because it's a 2-hour drive for us. Oshkosh takes some serious planning. We rent a house up there. We have a lot of things that need to be planned. We can't just last minute make that decision on Oshkosh. I hope it still happens. It's going to be tough. I look at the dates. I look at, like, they canceled the Olympics, which was right around that July kind of time frame. I think, gosh, if they canceled the Olympics, it's going to be tough for Oshkosh to make the argument that their event's okay to go on. I understand the Olympics, there was training up to it, and they couldn't train, so I get a lot of that too. But that's that. Leonardo in Brazil, good to see you, my friend. Jeff, I agree with Jeff said too. He said, honestly, I'd rather buy an airplane that needs a new engine that has awesome avionics. He's right. Avionics is a huge, huge headache. And I'm telling you, what we did with 23 Mike Zulu was obviously over the top, and we're doing 512 Mike Zulu, not as over the top, but still upgrading it quite nicely. It is time consuming. It is a lot of work, especially when you take airplanes from the 1970s that need all new wiring. And while you're in there, you might as well change all the wiring for the lights. And while you're in there, you might as well change everything to LED. And it's like one thing leads to another. And it just gets so expensive eventually to put your foot down and just say, stop, we're done, finish what we have. So that's that. Kevin, go back and watch. About 20 minutes ago, I answered the question on why 2 watches and then played a really funny video with that. Can I do a video on ditching? Well, obviously I don't want to ditch an airplane. I'm happy to talk about it. Won't be able to show that in the cockpit though. At least I hope I won't be able to. Eric says he's looking to join a local flying club. I love flying clubs. I think they are an awesome, awesome thing to use. All right. Tara says, I watch you 24/7. Thank you so much for that. Apologize if my voice haunts you in your sleep. I always laugh. Whenever spouses come up to me at Oshkosh and the husband or wife wants to take a picture, and the other spouse always comes to me and says, Jason, I'm no offense to you, but I'm tired of hearing your voice. My husband, my wife just lays in bed on the iPad watching M0A.com videos, and I'm trying to sleep, and all I hear is Jason's voice. That happens at least 3 or 4 times every air show, and I always feel so bad. But thank you for watching the videos 24/7, Tara. I really appreciate it. Tara, appreciate it. Jesus says the Diamond DA-20 safe aircraft for training. Absolutely, super airplane. Martin says it's just like owning a house. One project leads to another. When it comes to airplane restorations, that is the honest truth. Tara says you have a beach jet. Super, super cool. Would love to see some pictures. Be sure to send them to us either on Facebook or through the support. Would love to see that. Very, very cool. JBT username says, what about flying in places with low airport elevations but high terrain that's nearby? Watch density, altitude. If there's high terrain, there's density, altitude to deal with. Watch density, altitude, because you may be able to get in there. You may not be able to get out of there if you had to do a go around. So watch for that. And Eric, you're exactly right. That is exactly what your lovely wife said to me at the meetup at the South Street Brewery, was it? So yeah, funny stuff at that fly-in. All right, Stacy from Michigan checking in. Good to see you. Ray, hello from Michigan, just ordered the book. Thank you. Hey, speaking of that, real quick, and I'll take some more questions. If you're looking for some quarantine reading, you're looking to get into flying, grab a copy of our book, The Private Pilot Blueprint. The book is free. I just ask that you pay shipping and handling. It's $6.95 in the United States. Everything I wish someone would have told me before I started my flight training, how to save time and money in the entire process. $6.95, it's yours. I'll make sure Sarah goes in the office tomorrow and gets them shipped out to you. PrivatePilotBlueprint.com if you want to check that out and learn more. Also, other books. Right now, we just have The Private and The Instrument up on Audible. If you want to listen to our check ride books and kind of have a long 2.5-hour mock check ride, pass your private pilot check ride, pass your instrument pilot check ride. This is on Audible. When I took this screenshot, we were at 382 5-star reviews and 105 for instrument. Like, you guys are a blessing. It is incredible what you all do. Those books are on Audible for you guys to check out if you want to check that out. If you have a written test coming up, passmywritten.com. A course we made exclusively just for passing that written test. And of course, if you want to check out the online ground school that we talk so much about, take a 2-week free trial, no strings attached, m0atrial.com. m0atrial.com. If you need any of those links, again, holler at me. I'll happily get those to you. Sue asked us, if you keep changing aircraft, does it make you a better pilot? It depends where you are, Sue, in your training. If you're very early on in your training, the answer is no. It just adds to the confusion. If you're already a private pilot, changing aircraft can sharpen your skills a little bit more. Instrument even more so. But no, early on as a student pilot, it will just add to the confusion. In the Cherokee 140, the flaps are here. In the Cessna 172, the flaps are here. In the 172, the flap gauge is there, but in the 150, the flap gauge is there. And in the Cherokee 140, there is no flap gauge. It's all just a handle. Right? Like, it just could get so confusing to you to have to remember all those things when you're hurtling through the sky at 90 knots. So just something to think about. Jill Simmons, you are right about that in the New Bedford Airport. I remember talking about that. All right. Hey, Bethany, good to see you. During the quarantine, how frequent would you recommend students flying solo while waiting for local flight schools to open back up? I totally get it. I would only advocate right now flying solo, and a part of your pre-flight, if you don't own the airplane, is a good Clorox wipe down of the airplane as well. I did that a few times. I rented an airplane not too terribly long ago, and that's the first thing I did. Flying it solo, but wipe the whole thing down really good. I'd love you flying twice a week. Twice a week. Twice a week for training, twice a month for just maintenance, basically at that point, maintaining your skill set. That's not saying you're gonna improve. It's just maintaining the skill set that we have. We may stay on this plateau, but it's fine. Love the plateaus that you're on, because instrument, everything else will take you to that next level. So that's if you can pull that off. When ground says to cross the runway, whatever, how do they choose which direction to call the runway? I'm gonna ask Controller Bob. Controller Bob, are you still on Facebook? Controller Bob, you just gave me a clearance. Cross runway 36 on Alpha. Controller Bob, or Controller Jim if you're watching, why didn't you say cross runway 18 instead? Is it just your preference? Is it based on what runway you're using? I don't know if Bob is still watching. If not, Joel, could you text him such a question and reply back for me as well? Randy asked, will I be flying the Technim in future videos? If I can get all these airplanes out of maintenance, I would fly all three at the same time if I could. I am just sick and tired of maintenance. It's finding one thing after another, and it's frustrating. Jerry, my favorite tailwheel aircraft, that is the J3 Cub. It is my favorite, but I also have a healthy fear of that aircraft, because as I shared earlier, that aircraft will humble you, my friend. It will absolutely humble you. Fastest aircraft I've flown. Billy asked this on YouTube. Probably the Eclipse 500. That may not be the fastest airplane I've flown, but that's the fastest ground speed I had. I remember we were like 500 and something knots. It took 45 minutes to get back from Asheville, North Carolina to where I live in Florida in 45 minutes. We were hauling. It was incredible. I loved it. A little Eclipse. It was so tiny. An Eclipse jet's like, there's nothing to that plane. That's a company I wish would have stayed in business. Cool airplane. I don't know if you would touch one now, just based on finding parts and everything else for it. And they had a lot of avionics issues early on, I believe, too. I have flown certainly faster airplanes, but that is the fastest ground speed that I happen to remember. I have a lot of time, thanks to Joel, in a Cheyenne. I will never forget. I was flying with Joel, again, one of my great aviation mentors, and Bob replied to this. I'll get you an answer on the runway thing in a question. And Joel, again, I lived at the airport, literally lived in a hangar for a little while, one of Joel's hangars. Joel needed to take the Cheyenne up. Joel, I hope I'm allowed to share this story. This is many years now, and probably many Cheyenne owners ago. Take the Cheyenne up on a maintenance flight. So we went up to 17,500 feet, and we started doing like steep turns and slow flight and stalls in a turboprop Piper Cheyenne. And it was incredible. I remember thinking, I am doing a steep turn right now at 200, something, 250 knots. It was awesome. I don't know if we can do that anymore, Joel. But that was, again, not a fast plane. It's still fast compared to what I fly now, but that was a fun, memorable flight. Controller Bob says, if the airport is landing a certain direction, they may use those numbers. So cross runway 36. And they also may say cross 3618. They may just put the whole thing in there. But probably if they're using a certain runway, they may use the verbiage that way, is what he was explaining. Vincent said, Jason, online ground school is great. Thank you, my friend. Thoughts on the industry and everything going on with COVID 2 to 3 years out? You think the regionals will ever have a lot of demand for hiring? My friend, I truly believe the pilot shortage will be back in 2020. You think I'm crazy, and I may be. But the pilot shortage will be a conversation again in this year. When we come up with a vaccine or whatever the solution may be, we're already talking about opening the economy back up relatively soon. The governors are trying to do it now before everybody. Like everybody's excited to get back to work. We need to get back to work. I get it. I want us to get back to work. Trust me. I love working from home, and it certainly will be a new part of our culture. But I'm excited to get back in the studio. We will have a pilot shortage again in 2020. I am that confident of that. And yes, I am a big time optimist. I know we went from a pilot shortage to a lot of good pilots on reserves and furlough. We will come back to a pilot shortage in 2020. You will see it happen. What's my best tip for private pilot training, says Jeremy on YouTube. Jeremy, this is going to sound like I have a bias because I have an online ground school, but anyone who's done this on this call right now will tell you, learn everything you can on the ground. Everything you can on the ground. Master your steep turns, your stalls, your slow flight on the ground. The airplane is a terrible classroom. It is fast, it is expensive, there is no pause button. Learn everything you can on the ground and then go apply it in the air. Do some or most airports have open ramp space that isn't owned by an FBO? Is there any way to avoid ramp fees associated with places like Signature or Atlantic? Adam said, buy gas. Yeah, that'll do it. Ryan, absolutely. You can. We are looking at one day in the near future doing an airport facility, and part of it would be we'd have to lease the ramp space, but we would have space that we lease on the ramp as well. Hey Mark, my buddy Mark in Chicago, good to see you. Hope you and Ruth are doing well. Any thoughts on using experimental aircraft for training? Love it. Especially love your airplane that you're flying, Mark, in it. Here's your dilemma. Now the RV is a very, very popular series. You shouldn't have any issues with that, Mark. Some DPEs are weird about doing check rides in experimental aircraft. The RV series, you're probably not going to have an issue. That is the most popular kit-built plane, if I had to guess. You get into some of the more obscure experimentals, you may have a difficulty finding a DPE because a DPE needs at least 5 hours of PIC time in that type of aircraft in order to be able to administer a check ride in it. For example, I actually had to go all the way down to South Florida to find a DPE to do, am I pointing at the Tecnam? To do Tecnam check rides. So we had to do that because I needed somebody that had 5 hours of PIC time. I've heard they've changed that, but this has been years. So it's possible. William Krause, thank you for that find. Will you send that into the support for me, Will? I wasn't aware of that. And I know we shot an update on that, so it may be an oversight on our part, my friend. Thank you for that. All right. Bethany Scott, thank you for your kind words. Samson asked, do we go to other countries like the Bahamas? I love flying to the Bahamas. So we used to go to the Bahamas a lot, like just for lunch and stuff back in the day. Now it's a little more involved than just going for lunch, but we're working on some flyouts and everything else to make it there. Future plans for airplanes. Caden wants to know. I want to get the fleet we have at 100%. That is my primary mission. I want to get the fleet we have up, running, tip-top shape, and then I'll start looking for other airplanes. I'm always shopping, dreaming, looking for other airplanes for sure. All right. Robbie Dillon, yes, that is on Facebook. That is something we'll be working on in the distant future. It's probably a 2021 goal with that. Crazy Loca is the username on YouTube. How are your feelings about the engines getting cert exceptions using non-ethanol instead of low lead? Are they reliable? They are working on other solutions other than 100 low lead. I haven't had a lot of, the only other fuel type I've flown is Swift fuel, and it's great. The Tecnam loves it because it's a Rotax engine. It's just hard to come by. I know they'll deliver by the drum, but then the fire marshal frowns upon that, and it makes it a little bit difficult for me. Swift fuel is the one I've seen the closest to having success with that. Brad said, any thoughts on the Bahamas and a single engine piston? I'm fine with it. The pilot is the only thing in that airplane that knows it's over water. The airplane has no clue it's over water, it's over an airport, it's over land. The airplane doesn't know. It's going to keep on running. Don't you, the pilot, are the only one that know that the airplane's over water. Obviously, please do overkill with your survival gear. You may remember this video, and we got made fun of for it. And I love being made fun of for being too safe. I'm all about that. That's criticism I can take. We landed at Fort Lauderdale, I believe, grabbed some fuel there to fill up before making the trek over the Bahamas. It was August, it was very, very hot, but we still took our life preservers, and they were like the nice, thin, like fishing ones. They weren't the big, bulky, like Coast Guard orange ones. And we put our life preservers on for that flight. In a ditching situation, if it's not on you, it's not coming with you. And in that, it was the fishing one. So it had all the spots for like extra lures and hooks and all those things. So it was really nice. I had a knife and a seatbelt cutter. It was a knife, seatbelt cutter, and window punch all in one. And I had that in one of the vest pockets. And trust me, the FBO guys looked at us like we were crazy. We got some mean comments, I'll call them, on the YouTube videos about it. Oh, that's so dorky, that's so dumb. I wouldn't look so dumb if we had to ditch, I'll tell you that, because I'd have been out of that airplane and been alive, instead of looking and fumbling to find my life vest when I'm about to make the most important landing of my life. Over prepare and wear your life vest during the flight. You're gonna sweat like crazy, but you'll be real thankful that you did it. And like Joel said, rent a raft. And by the way, don't rent a raft and put it in the baggage compartment. People want to rent rafts and put them in the baggage compartment. What good does that do when I'm ditching? You're never going to get to it. Rent the raft and keep it somewhere where you can actually get to it. All right, Brad Proctor on Facebook. Jason, I've been working on my private ticket for 5 years now, taking multiple extended breaks, kids being born, totally get it, man, military obligations, etc. 97 on the written test, congratulations, outstanding score. Looking to finish up, 0.7 hours solo, 3 hours prior to 60-day requirement after my school opens back up. Any chance of my DPE giving me a hard time about my hours being spread out so much? No, but they're gonna ask. You just need to have the story. Life happened. Kids, work obligations, I'm in the military, by the way. As long as your story's straight, you'll be fine. Don't sweat it one bit, my friend. Your story is your story, and I think it's an awesome story. So don't sweat it. Let's answer a few more questions here. Would I bring an inflatable raft as well? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would with that. A self-inflate emergency raft. Absolutely. That's a problem. I've seen a video before of somebody who left it in the baggage compartment. The raft impacted water and it deployed in the aircraft. And those things are explosive when they deploy, those rafts. So now you're trying to get out of the aircraft and your raft just exploded in the fuselage. Like it's not a good circumstance. Do you get what I'm saying here? You want to be smart with that. All right. Let's answer a few more questions then. It's already well past 9. I want to wrap it up and honor your time. I do want to share too, please don't forget about our private pilot, instrument pilot, commercial pilot, flight instructor podcasts. Check those out as well. Also, I mentioned it earlier too about aviation mastery at sea, where we're gonna have that great co-pilot course. So many of you, I've seen the names. Adam Saylor, just saw your question. The Adam Saylors, Jeffs of the world, Coach Ray, so many of Eric Deagle, I believe, is about to join us too. So many are gonna be joining us on this. Steve-O1 Knievo will be there, as well as my good friend Brendan Edwards volleyball tournament. Myself versus Steve-O. Choose the right team, please. We're gonna have a super fun time. These are the only seats I have left right now. If you book before April 30th coming up, it's $12.75 per person. It is simply a $100 deposit, and you can make payments on it, so don't sweat that price one bit. $12.75 per person. I am out of the diamond level seating and pricing right now. Aviationmastery.com if you wish to check it out and learn more. Aviationmastery.com. All right, a few more questions, then we're gonna wrap, because oddly enough, I still have a little more work I need to do before I can go to bed myself. A few little things I need to check off the to-do list before we call it a day. Phil said, how do you take flight lessons with me? Phil, I unfortunately do not take on students anymore. Like I shared earlier, M0A.com is a very blessed and growing company. It takes all my time and then some, as we'll see after this, work until 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. And then waking up and doing it all again tomorrow. Wouldn't trade it for anything. So while I don't take on students anymore, I teach our team members, and I teach you all. I talk to you through a bunch of cameras instead. So certainly still teaching, but working on that. All right. Adam Thomas said, share something that's in the parking lot. Great idea. Let me explain what the parking lot is. Adam is a dedicated fan. Let me find the parking lot here. It's over here. Good thing I have a wireless mic. All right. So the team, all 25 of them, think I'm crazy, as I shared with you. I come to them. It was funny. I called John. John's our director of video production, and I called him one day and said, John, I have a really crazy idea. And his reaction was, oh my. And that's usually a reaction I get from most everybody on the team. I have crazy ideas. So one of our business coaches advised, said, Jason, you need a parking lot to write all your crazy ideas down and then filter them from there. So I literally created Jason's parking lot. So I add something to it every day. Let's go through. Adam wants to share something from the parking lot. What can I share? One of these things, the Controller Bob and Joel show, I literally wrote that down as they were making me laugh on the live stream. I said, this is a really good idea here. Gosh, some of these are good ideas I don't want to share because I just want to surprise everybody with them. I'll share you one of my crazy, okay, here's one I can share. Then let me show you a really crazy idea. I am getting into drone racing. I want a Remote Pilot 101 drone racing team. That sounds super, super nerdy, but it's super cool. And flying drones, FPV, first person view with the goggles, is super, super hard. So we may need to hire a drone racing team rather than me be on the drone racing team. One of my ideas. Can I share with you one of my really crazy, as Jim Collins would call it, a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal? One of my crazy, crazy goals, business is a passion of mine. I love business as much as I love aviation. This is one of my crazy dreams, is to build a company one day that rings the bell at the New York Stock Exchange or on the NASDAQ, whatever works. That is one of my goals, to be the founder. I love new beginnings of a business like that. That is one of my big, crazy goals with that. Wesley said he will be on the new drone racing team. Listen, I'm not even kidding. I'm a terrible drone pilot. No, I'm not a terrible drone pilot. I'm a terrible drone racing pilot. I've been practicing. I have nothing but time to practice right now, and it's not going well. So we're going to need a drone racing team. So if you would like to submit for the drone racing team, I'm not even kidding right now. Send in a support ticket to us because we need some help. And when the Drone Racing League comes back after this coronavirus, we need a Remote Pilot 101 racing team. Office Dad, I hope you're watching. I'm building our racing team. You're welcome. Sergio, thank you for believing in my goals. Appreciate that. Jeff, I love ideas, my friend. I love ideas. Let's chat before the cruise. Reach out, my friend. TBM 940 or Honda Jet? Honda Jet. Sorry, Jeff. I know you're a diehard TBM fan. It's the Honda Jet is, have you ever seen a Honda Jet in blue? Honda Jet should only come in blue. They are gorgeous. I love it. Vincent, if I had to put a 172 down on a water landing, how would you prevent it from cartwheeling? Fixed gear, do you think it would flip? Okay, let's talk about ditching. Everyone's been asking about ditching. All right. Fixed gear, obviously, you're right. It's scary. If we come in at a controlled speed, I'm talking right before stall. Here's what I don't want to do. Here's how you cartwheel when ditching. You come in hanging it like a helicopter, and you hit, and you flip that way. If you come in with a nice transition and kind of skim and slowly introduce the wheels to the water and make it a gradual process, you're not going to flip. It's when you say, I want to come in as slow as possible, the stall warning horn is blaring, you hit the tail first, for goodness sakes. That's how you end up flipping in a ditching scenario. High wing, more likely to flip than a low wing, by the way, in a ditching scenario, just based on physics. I love showing stuff with the airplane. Jeff, I totally, on Facebook, I totally get what you're saying. I'm all ringing the bell, man. That is my goal. When I'm like, I need to get many businesses down the road. I love what we're doing with M0A right now, and you know how passionate I am about business with that. All right. Caden, good to see you. Currently 14 and have 20 hours. Good for you, man. How did your training work since you started at 12? Wondering how to save money. My friend, I had dedicated parents who would, my parents worked so hard, and we were by no means wealthy, so don't hear me incorrectly here. Both my mother and my father worked their butt off taking extra jobs to help me fund flight training. I specifically remember one time my father, who owns a pest control business, offered to his customers to pressure wash their driveways in addition to doing pest control to make extra money to help fund this flying dream. My family was all in on supporting this dream. In addition to this, I had my first job, albeit illegally, under the table at 13 years old. I was a referee at a paintball field. Believe it or not, it was one of my first jobs. Under the table, No one knew I was 13. When I became 16, I got a job at Target, which is the only job I've ever been terminated from. That's a story for another day. Anyways, but yeah, all savings, all money, all effort went into that. I was also the airport bum, willing to wash planes, sweep hangars, do whatever it took just to get a ride in an airplane from a flight instructor and log time. So that was that. Sergio said, where can we get one of these models? Both of these are from FDM, Factory Direct Models, and they were expensive. Gavin, who's going to be 3 this week, well, technically next week, but in a week, he always wants to play with it. I'm thinking, this thing, I think it was like $500. It is not cheap, and he always wants to play with it. I said, no, we're not going to play with that today. So the Technim was actually a gift from Technim when we went there in Italy. I was so scared. I brought this thing all the way back from Italy without breaking it, and I was so thankful. Again, like 4 connecting flights, everything else from Naples, Italy, all the way back. We didn't check. I carried it on because I was so scared. So that's that. Biggest uh-oh moment from Ryan. Wow. Uh-oh. My biggest uh-oh moment. You know, the engine failure doesn't really come to mind as an uh-oh moment. That was like training just kicked in. I'm trying to think of a moment where I basically, I always give myself positive affirmations. I'm a uplifting person. Affirmations is my love language. I always joke with the team. We all know each other's 5 love languages. Affirmations is mine. But so I'm trying to think one of those days I had that negative self-talk, like, Jason, you screwed this up. And I've said that to myself in an airplane before. I remember, the story is cloudy to me. But I remember getting myself in a jam scud running. And the reason I was even flying, because I owned the 150 at the time. And I remember I was like so broke that I had to fly, I wanted to fly the airplane to the airport across town because the fuel was like $1 a gallon cheaper. Like, that's how broke I was. It's like the crazy person you always say drives across town to save a quarter on their gas. Like, I was that guy, but in an airplane. And the weather was really bad. And I remember scud running to get there, and I couldn't get there. So I turned back around to go back to the Ocala airport. And I remember thinking, Jason, you really screwed this up this time. The airplane was not IFR current because I couldn't afford the pedostatic checks on it or the transponder checks on it. There was some rough times very early on. M0A came from very, very humble beginnings. Perhaps that may be a story to share. You know, I learned everything I know about business from reading a ton and making a ton of mistakes. That is the honest truth, and I believe that's one of the best ways to learn about business as well here. Controller Bob, yes, same paint scheme for 2-3 Mike Zulu. Actually, I was going to, Bob, in this little triangle here, I was going to add your face. I want a big Controller Bob going like this. For the new Bob, you know, Controller Bob and Captain Joel show. Captain Joel's going to be on this side since he's always in the right seat. I was going to put a little picture of him right there. So that same paint scheme other than you guys. That's what I was looking for. The crazy part is I'll have a sticker in the mail of Bob going like this pretty soon. I go, why didn't you put it on the airplane? Because that's the kind of guy he is. Damon says he worked at Target too. See, I told you, that is the only job I ever got terminated. So let me tell you that story real quick. I know it's getting late. This is not aviation related. The only job I've ever been terminated from was at Target. I started as a seasonal cashier. They kept me on. I was 16 years old. They kept me on after the seasonal work was done. At Target, I don't know if they still do this, as a cashier, they used to grade you on your speed. You'd either get a G for green or an R for red based on how fast you check that person out of the store. It was just, you were an assembly line. You're supposed to checking people out. I had, of all the Target Ocala employees, I had the worst cashier rating because I always got R's because I loved to talk to people. I would, oh, this is a cool thing you're buying. Where'd you find that? And I would talk to everybody. They literally said to me, Jason, you are a great person. You just talk too much. You're too slow. We're going to put you out on the sales floor where you can't talk to anybody. Well, I was on the sales floor. I was in charge of stocking shelves. Well, out there, believe it or not, I found people to talk to. People asked for help. People, not even my department, I was willing to help. My shelves never got stocked properly or in time because I was always out helping people and just talking to people. They said, Jason, you're a really great person. we're going to put you where you cannot talk to anybody. You're going to push carts. So I became the target cart pusher, which in August in Florida, this is before we had the cool automated cart pushing thing, guys. Like, that was a really tough job, but I made a game out of it. And I'm big into like records. I am like super, super competitive. That's why I'm so excited about the Steve-O Jason volleyball tournament on the Aviation Mastery at Sea. I was competing with the other cart pushers as to who could push the most carts into the store at one time. So I'd purposely let all the carts out there build up, and someone would say, I pushed 21 carts in the store, I pushed 22, and we're always trying to one up each other. So one day I came in and I'm talking, I don't know how many carts I got up to. It had to be like 80 something carts. And I pushed all the carts into the store, through the doors. They hit the cart wall at the store. The carts went out the store, and our target, the main entrance is just right where you drive in. The carts blocked all the main entrance. No one could enter and no one could leave Target because I had this chain, this snake of carts from the cart wall all the way on out. And I had to break each cart down one by one and bring them in. So there was traffic backed up on the road. People couldn't leave. They were beeping horns at me. But I broke the Target cart pushing record. And that's what's most important. I did then get terminated shortly after that because I blocked all the traffic into Target. And that is the only time I've ever been terminated from a job. Other than that, I said, listen, this working for somebody stuff is tough. If I'm gonna work, I'm gonna have to create my own jobs. And I've been creating my jobs ever since. Even working for Joel was kind of like creating my own jobs. So it was super. So Joel, thank you for those flying opportunities as well. That is my Target story. I don't think I've ever told anybody, at least publicly on a giant Facebook and YouTube live stream, that story. Have I ever flown a Beaver? I have, on floats out of Jacksonville, actually. Very, very fun airplane. Holly, you're right, goals. Mine were cart goals. I was 16 years old and just in the cart pushing game, trying to win. And I'm still setting crazy, audacious goals like ringing the bell for the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ one day. I'm telling you, I'm a little crazy when it comes to goals. Yeah. How many hours are enough when you work as a flight instructor so you don't have too much flight time on instruction? Nathaniel, don't worry about that. If you're worried about like what an airline's going to say if you instruct too long, don't worry about it. More hours are better, my friend. Don't sweat it. Now, if it's like banner towing hours or something, they're not going to look as highly upon those hours. Joel might be able to chime in better on that. But no, instruction hours, they love them. Don't you sweat it. Chris said, what about getting my glider rating? Would love to. Did seaplane, loved that. Need to get current in that again, proficient in that again. Would love, I've flown a glider. Would love to do more gliders for sure. Joel, I see what you did there. Joel, I can't tell the break story. I can tell the break story. Joel, he's over on Facebook. He's Captain Joel, and he does the show with Controller Bob. It's coming to you soon. I think we have a meeting about that sometime soon too, guys. I don't know if you've been made aware, but we are. One of Joel's most popular sayings is quit riding my brakes. Except Joel has this, like, although Joel's from Pennsylvania, he's somehow got like a Southern accent. Joel, you might have to refresh my memory on how a guy from a little dairy farm in Pennsylvania got a Southern Georgia accent. I don't know how that happened. But in his Southern Georgia accent, he says, quit riding my brakes. Just like that. That's a good, actually, Joel impersonation. That's pretty accurate. He yells when you ride his brakes. And I know exactly how much a brake pad costs, because if you don't, by the end of your lesson with Joel, he will tell you how much each brake pad costs and how to install it. So Joel, if you could chime in on how a Pennsylvania dairy farmer got a Southern Georgia accent, I would appreciate that. I've never asked you that question. Zamir, no, I'm not working on the multi-engine course right now. We had a big setback. It was CFI, then multi we were going to work on, but with this ACS, it changed so much. Right now, we're reshooting remote pilot. We've already reshot private. We're reshooting instrument pilot. Those will be the next launches. Let me tell you what's coming, by the way. This is in the Jason's parking lot, number one. We are working, this is for M0A and remote pilot. We are working not only on all new courses, all new website. I've got a lot of science, a lot of data that talks about we've built out, so I told you, my 3 passions: aviation, business, and the science of learning. In the science of learning, there's a lot of data and trials that show a specific method of learning. I've combined all of these together to essentially have created the aviation mastery method of learning. I'm going to implement that via flashcards. So we're going to have flashcards. This will eventually, by the way, be app-based. So show the flashcard, give you the answer, and I'll work you through this aviation mastery algorithm to help you not have rote memorization, but truly know and understand the material. Also, when you get the answer incorrect, there'll be a video of Jason saying, hey, Holly, here's why you got that question incorrect. I won't really say Holly, but it'll be for everybody. This is why you got the question incorrect. Still have a question? Submit a support ticket, and one of our CFIs will reach out to you on why this is the correct answer and where you need help with it on there. We're moving towards that. Here's another big one, not only app-based, but offline viewing as well. Many of you have been asking about offline viewing for a while. That's like phase 2 stuff. Phase 3, where I want to take this, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, that kind of stuff. That's where I want to take that. Okay, it is getting late, and I still have a lot of work to do, and I will be here with you guys. Hey, by the way, I started something new, and you guys seem to like it. Saturdays at 1 p.m., I'm doing in-flight coffee with Jason. It's kind of like this Ask Me Anything type atmosphere, where I make a specialty roast blend of coffee, and then we sit and drink that coffee together and talk about airplanes. So that's that. All right, 3 more questions. I'm gonna be very choosy here. If I missed anything, send it as a support ticket or still leave it as a comment and I will help you out with that. Pilot Plane Coffee, thank you for that. Check out our in-flight coffee, by the way, on Saturday, 1 p.m. on Facebook Live. All right, JBT, good question. What is my non-aviation backup career? It would be an aviation-related business of some sort, my friend. I guess you asked a non-aviation backup career. I guess I was assuming like I lose my medical or something like that happens. I'd still do aviation. I love business. I am so passionate about business. I would start another business somehow. I would save a lot of time because I made a lot of mistakes in many businesses. In one of my new offices, I want a wall of Jason's failed businesses. Because it needs to be a big wall because there's been many of them. I learned so much from those. I won't count this as a question, but where do I instruct at? Right where you're watching me on m0a.com. I don't take on any actual students. I won't count this as a question. Jermaine the pilot asked, am I planning a CFI check ride prep book? Yes, that will be done. Eric, yeah, I know about the Roku channel. I'm excited about that. Maybe you can help us in that. Okay, Larry, I didn't see your question. If you can copy and paste it for me again. I see you say look at the aforementioned, but it's a lot to scroll through. Would you mind copy and pasting that for me, Larry? Because a quick scroll is not showing it for me. I apologize. It's just a lot. It gets buried. Lamo asks, will I ever stop worrying about my engine shutting off? It is good to have a little humble fear in aviation. Someone asked me a few live streams ago, what do I do on long cross countries? Do I sing? Yeah, someone asked that. Probably someone I can't remember who asked that. I feel like it was one of our members that asked that. No, I don't sing. I play a weird game called What Would I Do If My Engine Quits? And I'd land right there. And I watch that field and I watch that field. And when I can no longer land there on this cross country, I pick another field, that one over there. And that's my field. I've already made the decision if my engine quits. It's a really creepy, weird game, but that's the game I play. Pilot Plane Coffee, appreciate you, brother. Thank you. All right. Larry's question, thank you for finding that. What do you think is an excessive price for a trainer as a student pilot? If you're just a student pilot, I don't think you should spend more than a new Hyundai. What's a new Hyundai? 45 grand maybe, if it's one of the SUVs. A new Jeep, I don't know what it is. A new car, it shouldn't be more than a new car. 45 grand, 50 grand maybe tops. I don't know what kind of new cars you guys are looking at lately, but that's the kind of number I have in my head. Because you're gonna beat the snot out of this plane. It should be used, you're only gonna get a used plane for that price. You're gonna beat the snot out of this plane. You're gonna cringe when you slam it in for a hard landing. It's your baby. I'd rather you rent it, honestly. But if you're gonna buy a plane for that purpose, don't spend more than 50 grand. That's my advice. At what age can you start flight lessons? Any age, my friend. My kids are still a little too young to justify it, but they're going to have, I want to get them in a glider early on and work through that. All right, tips for commercial pilot applicant. I'm going to end on this question. I apologize, guys, but I do have probably another hour's worth of work before I get to go to bed, and I am not a late night person. I'm an early morning person. Anyways, tips for the commercial pilot applicant. Here it is. Don't listen to the advice that the commercial pilot check ride is a glorified private pilot check ride. Nothing could be further from the truth. Let me show you. Where's okay, I have private. Okay. This is our book, the paperback. Sorry, I don't have the audiobook yet. Pass Your Commercial Pilot Check Ride. It's instrument. Where's the private? Oh, it is private. This is our book, Pass Your Private Pilot Check Ride. These books are written in question and answer format. I ask a question. They're asked on actual check rides. Every question here came up on actual check rides, and then I give you the correct answers. This is private. This is commercial. Look at the difference in the spines of the two books. Can you see that? How much bigger the commercial book is compared, it's twice the size. The commercial book is 216 pages. That's numbered pages. Well, this is 130 pages. Almost, sorry, I apologize, off a little bit, almost twice the size. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, it's just like your private pilot. That is the biggest mistake you can make, my friend. By the way, these are all available on Amazon. These two as audiobooks, if you'd like to check those out as well. So anyways, listen, it is getting a little bit late, even for myself, as I still have a little bit more work to do. It's work for you all, to make you all safer, smarter pilots. I mean it, guys. You are a blessing to this business. What you do, how you just hang out here with us, like, it is incredible. I don't feel like I have a job. And there's so many M0A family members who work for M0A that feel the same way. And you all make it outstanding. I hope you feel that energy. I hope you are working towards a career like that for yourself as well, hopefully in aviation. And hopefully we're playing a small role in that big success of getting you there. If not, at least just making it a killer hobby for you guys. You all are outstanding. You are the reason we do what we do, the reason we stay out this late, the reason we get up so early. It is for you all. To help make you safer, smarter pilots. If there is anything, and I truly mean that, anything we can do this week, this month, this year, to help you in your flying, to help make you a safer, smarter pilot, no question is too big or too small. And I don't care if you're a paying customer or have never paid us a dime, it doesn't matter. We want to help. We want to make aviation safer. That's what we're after. I hope that comes across in every live stream, every video, every podcast, everything we do. We do it for you all. Have an outstanding evening, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great night, guys. We'll see ya.